Hello everyone, I'm delighted today to be interviewing Hannah Buchanan about her incredible landscape artwork. Hi Hannah.
Hello.
So we're going to start off as always just by showing your page in the ART360 magazine, which Leslie's just going to pop up on the screen for you. I'm dying to see those works behind you up close.
Yeah, bear with me, I'm a little nervous, but I'll be all right.
All right. I have to find your page in it now. There we are. Those beautiful cloud scenes up in the top. So that's got your contact details on it, and we're going to be talking a lot more about your social media later on, but that's got all the links to it there as well. Brilliant. So I think if we start off by, if you just tell us a little bit about your artist story, your early memories surrounding artwork, and what made you decide to pursue a career in it.
Well, I mean, I think like everyone, if you're a creative person, you'll be doing creative things from a young age. I don't really think I was ever particularly special in art. Actually, I know I wasn't. You know, at school, I did an art club that was told that I was distracting the talented kids, so I was told to leave. And then, yeah, and then I went to secondary school, applied for an art scholarship, and was told, don't bother, it's not worth your time. And then a little bit later on, I did an art GCSE a bit late because I kind of wasn't convinced that I was any good. And then another teacher said, hang on, maybe you are kind of good at this, you should give it a go. And then went to do an art degree at the University of Leeds, which I thought was, I originally started doing fine art, but I thought it's, you know, lots of other artists have spoken about this already, but it's a very conceptual course at the University of Leeds, and it's not really about technical skill, or, you know, it's about concepts and the meaning of art. And although I think it's really good to explore that and sort of realize why you make work, sometimes, you know, I was really there for learning technical skills, and I'd never picked up an oil paint before. And then a good friend of mine, Sarah, I was one time just doing some drawing and turned it into an acrylic painting, and she said, have you ever tried oils? And I just sort of learned from her, and I'm still learning because I kind of learned the backwards route. So there are a few things that I've missed here and there, and I'm now picking up. So yeah, left university, and I've now been out of university for a year, and then lockdown kind of pushed me to do the art thing. So that's why I'm here.
That's incredible that you persevered. There was obviously something there with all these people telling you that you could leave the class.
I don't know, I think, you know, the main thing about it was I know that I enjoyed it, and I've always really enjoyed painting. So even if I wasn't any good at it, I just did it for fun. And I think, you know, skill is, you know, there are three parts to it. There's perseverance, and there's passion for it, and then the talent kind of comes with that. If you practice enough and you're passionate, then you'll get the skill later on.
And we were talking in the agreement about your mum, it's Cece, isn't it? And did she influence you at home then with her creating?
CB. Yeah, she never painted. So painting is a very different thing. But mum is definitely creative. Her whole family, two of her sisters are painters. She does sculpting. So it's definitely been surrounded. My dad can't draw a stick man for his life, so it's definitely from her. But he's very mathematical, and I think I've always been interested in sort of structures. I used to sew a lot as a kid, and I liked the idea of taking a garment and having a sort of 2D flat shape and then turning it into a 3D object, and my mind's just kind of worked like that from this side.
And you're not answering these questions at the moment from your studio, are you? Because I think, did you say you usually paint in your greenhouse?
Yeah, so I paint in a greenhouse, which is a 3x2 meter space, but the internet's not very good there, so I didn't really want to take a risk, really. And also, you never know what's happening in there. If it's raining, it's so loud you can't hear anything. If it's been sunny all day, it's really warm in there. So I thought, just to control a little bit, I would go somewhere else for the interview.
And do you paint in there no matter what? So like you say, if there's a storm or if it's raining, do you still stay in there?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think from all these interviews, lots of artists have said, again, when you do this, you take a moment to reflect and you start thinking about your practice. And I know I've always said to people I'm so influenced by the weather, but being in a greenhouse which is sort of semi-outside, you really are, like, your whole practice is surrounded by what's going on outside. So in the wintertime, when it's flat light all day and you get really short light, I'm painting as soon as it gets light in the morning until 4 p.m. And in the midsummer, when it's really warm sun, it was getting up to 46 degrees in the middle of the summer. So I wake up super early and start painting from about 7, let the light come around, and then about 12 it gets just too hot to do anything, and then I start painting again from 3 or 4 when it cools down. So yeah, it's really dependent on the weather, but I wouldn't have it any other way, really.
I think that's wonderful, like working in your little like bubble outside, like you say, in what you're painting.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I listen to things when I paint as well. So I've been listening to these podcasts or Radio 4. They always have on BBC Sounds some really good dramas. So sometimes I'll go into the studio really early and I'll be in there all day and I'll be listening to whatever I like, or I'll be stuck into a really good drama or audiobook and I just won't really see anyone all day. And then you come out exhausted because you've just been working flat out for so long. But it's good fun.
And so has landscapes, we can see from behind you that landscapes obviously your forte, but has it always been that way?
Not at all, really. I think I started, or when I say started getting good, I started sort of seeing some kind of skill in my work in university, and I was drawing portraits and I was drawing faces, and I was using the grid method, which is a very specific sort of leaning towards photorealism. And I think I started doing portraits that way and then started painting portraits and going that way, but then got frustrated by it because I couldn't leave the grid method. And I started looking at landscapes because I've always been such a fan of Kent and the countryside. I've always been surrounded by green. It's, it kind of fuels me anyway. And then I started to realise you don't need a grid method. It's so much more freeing when you're a landscape painter because, if you paint a tree slightly wrong, there's a chance that there's a tree out there that does look like that. And, the lighting in a landscape is really key. And so if you've got the lighting sort of in a sort of consistent manner all across the composition, it doesn't really matter about the form so much. I mean, it does, but not like a portrait. So this is when I started getting really into landscapes, and now I will never go back. Never.
Much more freedom, yeah, like you say, you know if there's a face that's wrong.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But a landscape, there's so much more to explore. It's so much more interesting. Sometimes I don't really take portrait commissions anymore, but I still do sometimes through an exception if there's a landscape involved. And yeah, when you get to the face part, you think, oh, so much more boring. I want to go back to the trees.
And most of so you're based in Kent, aren't you? So you're quite close to me. Are most of your landscapes that you do, are they of like Kent? Are they of local places to you? I
mean, I think yes, there are some exceptions to that. I surf in Cornwall a lot, and I absolutely love seascapes and cliffs and things like that. But in lockdown, especially, because that's where we've been, it's been Kentish landscapes. I get most of the inspiration from either cycling, because I cycle a lot around here, and also from just walking around the landscape. So it just kind of depends what tickles your fancy, what sort of sunset or view or ridge that makes you think, oh, I really want to translate that into a composition, and whether that's from being on the bike or on foot. Usually it just means that I'm close to home.
I meant to say at the beginning as well, if anyone has any questions for Hannah, do pop them in the ask a question box below. And I think if it's all right, if we have a look at your website, because I know you said you didn't have any seascapes up behind.
I didn't want the pressure.
But we'll have a look at a few of them on your website, which Leslie's just going to pop up. And if you could talk us through some of the artwork that's on there, that'd be fab.
Okay, so this is the events page about just things that are coming up. I teach a class for KAE, and I've got an exhibition coming up in Rye. which starts on Wednesday, which is super exciting, with Scarlett, who's Scarlett Woodman. She's also one of the artists in the magazine. And there's the Landscape Artist of the Year. They tend to do that too, but we can talk about that in a minute.
Wow.
Yeah, so these are specifically ones that I've done. I literally finished that one a few days ago. A friend of mine, actually my godfather, who messaged me, I send out a newsletter. I have a mailing list. I always send out a newsletter on the first Monday of the month. And he messaged me and he said, "Oh my gosh, Hannah, I've had a brainwave. Instead of painting landscapes from the land," because he's a surfer like me and he's very into his water sports, and he does a little windsurfing, so he says that he looks onto cliffs from the sea. And he said I should start doing landscapes where you're not looking out onto the water, you're in the water, going, looking towards
oh, brilliant.
The ridge. So some friends have just recently bought a boat, like a rubber duck, and we've been going down the River Rother, paddling up and down. And so this was inspired from a little river trip that we took. I've actually made a few river paintings now, but thank you to my godfather, because I like that idea a lot.
That's a fantastic idea. Yeah, it's so interesting.
This little one is a little woodland area in Bennington that I always pass. There's an artist who I follow on social media called Brooke Cormier, who's a Canadian artist, and I think she's quite young as well. She does these fabulous woodland scenes, and I kind of wanted to adopt sort of her style. I'm still very much finding my own voice in my style and the kind of paintings I make. So this was more of an experiment, an ode to her, if she's watching. Again, another view in Bennington, actually. The stitching across is, that's something that's quite interesting. Again, when we're looking at reflecting on our work and how we make stuff, I didn't think about it until today, but I did used to sew so much, and it wasn't until I listened to the artists who were a few days ago. I think we had Carol, I can't remember her last name, but anyway, sorry, lots of textile artists said that they used to sew clothes, and I never really thought that mattered to my work, but a sewing machine to me is a very familiar thing, thanks to my grandma, thank you, Brandy. And so I kind of started thinking, okay, what am I trying to say with these landscapes? What am I trying to make the viewer feel? And I've always wanted the viewer to have a look at them and feel serenity and peace and just a complete breathe out, to sort of reset your position in the world and just remember that you're sort of a tiny, tiny part of a much bigger place, and there's so much beauty around us. But then we've also got, ecological crisis, and the climate is something that we really need to pay attention to. So the stitch canvas was some kind of sort of a whisper to that, a sort of idea that we can look at this beautiful landscape, but also we're trying to desperately patch it back together, or like hold it together in our fingertips, because it is slipping, and there's something that we need to do about that. So by stitching the canvas, this one is also stitched, you kind of have an underlying sort of idea about that. So you can ignore the stitches and they don't take up too much of the composition. Sometimes I make it so that they add to the composition, but also I think that it's something that should be there. It's something that we shouldn't ignore, and we should just remember that we have a responsibility to keep our planet the way it is.
How incredible. It adds such a new dynamic to your work, those ones. They're absolutely beautiful.
And especially this one is called The Wonder Tree. If you see the foreground field, so that line that goes straight across the middle, that is also a stitch. So you can incorporate the composition and the stitched idea quite nicely sometimes, which I like.
Oh, so literally okay. I saw what you mean. Sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, I think not all of them are stitched. I should say that, because I know there are some people who say, "Oh, Hannah, I love your landscapes, but that line down the middle, oh." So I think it's important to sort of have a varied portfolio, just because there's always going to be something that suits somebody, and some people can't get over the stitches. But for me, it's important to keep doing that, because it's something that, you know, the environment means a lot to me, and it's something that I really want to keep present in my work.
And you said that the first picture that was that you finished only a few days ago, and we were saying earlier how good you are on it on social media. So we have a question here as well. So did you create the website yourself, and do you do all of that yourself?
Yes, I have to say, I created the website 2 years ago, and it's not until this year where I thought, right, this is we're going to make this happen. And I sat down and really sort of learned everything about, I don't know what it's called, but it's not coding, because I'm not writing any, you know, binary text, but it is using those website editors and knowing how to do everything on it and upload things. And I feel like I'm getting the knack of taking better photographs of my work and uploading it. And it takes a lot of time, and it's not something that should be ignored, because I definitely have had paintings up there before which weren't photographed properly, and you can really tell. So, you know, I think that's something that takes a lot of time, but it's worth it, definitely.
And what are your top tips for incorporating social media into your practice? Because I know so many artists find it so time consuming to do it, and avoid it for that reason. So what are your top tips for doing it?
So I would say that it's quite difficult, because it takes up a lot of time, but I think it's something you should be on it with, because not only do you want to show the finalized pieces, and that's what the website's for, that you can show your professional finished side, and that's all that stuff that, you know, can't be ignored. But then also you've got the Instagram, which is sort of the in-progress work, so you can look at, you know, what the studio looks like, your process, how do you make stuff, your tone grounds, and all the bits that viewers or maybe customers would never really see. You know, the work that goes into it is a big thing. And so I think that you can use each platform to sort of accommodate what you're doing, and you can think, okay, well, I can show the professional finalized stuff on the website, but then on Instagram and other social medias, you can kind of start thinking, okay, let's get a bit more playful with this, and you can show anything.
Because you did that tour of your studio, didn't you, which was brilliant?
Yes, so that was kind of something that I did during lockdown, which I had a show which was cancelled, and so it was something that I needed to do, really, because you had to think, okay, so I can't go out to see people, so how can I bring people in? And by doing things like that, I don't know if it was anything to do with just cheering people up. That was kind of, you know, an idea behind it, just to bring a little bit more fun to an evening, but also, you know, people who wouldn't see your work because they live on the other side of the world, or because they, you know, wouldn't have been able to get to your exhibition at that time anyway. You know, if it's online, they can see it in their own time. The first one I did, I forgot to save it, so you couldn't see it. But then I've just done the second one, which is saved and is on my Instagram Live, so you can see that anytime.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I think that's the one I saw then, the one that was saved.
Yeah.
And you showed us very, very briefly, and I want to hear about your experience on the Sky Landscape Artist of the Year, and that was it 2018?
Yes, so I did, I can't remember now, I think it was 2018 when I did the first time, and I was just in the background, got 2 minutes of airtime, it was nothing, and that was actually probably one of the first landscapes I ever did, because
wow,
I sort of started doing landscapes, and I applied for Portrait Artist of the Year, but then landscape artist, I thought, oh, no, give it a go, why not? And then suddenly you're a wild card. Oh gosh, I've got to learn how to make landscapes. So it was really early on. And then I did it again last year, and I was a wild card again, and did this really tiny piece, and I felt a lot more confident about the landscape because I've been doing it for a while now. And I won the wild card, which was really fun. I didn't go any further, but the community there is amazing. I met artists who I'm still in contact with today, and once you know people in the field in your kind of area, it's really useful for any kind of tips, really. How to package stuff, how to advertise your work, or just, you know, critiques. What do you think of this? How can I improve this? So it's a great community.
And would you be interested in going on it again, do you think? Is this something you'd consider?
Yes. I mean, there are a few things about it. I know that these landscapes do not take me 6 hours to make. So you know, if the competition's only 6 hours, you can't really, I think, show your capabilities in the short time. But at the same time, you know, you can kind of see where a painting's going in 6 hours. And if you make it small enough, you can kind of have some fun with it. So I think I'm always interested in meeting more artists. The wildcard thing is great fun, but the competition kind of depends on that. You know, I've got other things, like shows and stuff to do. Maybe not that year, but yeah, I'd try again.
Could you, you said about not being 6 hours. Could you tell us a bit about your process from how you start your work and then how you know it's finished?
Yeah, it's quite long. I always stretch the canvases myself. So, you know, I buy the frames, I buy the planks of wood, knock them together, stretch the canvas, prime it once or twice, and then I'll do a tone ground. I'm not sure, hang on, I might be able to show you. Excuse me. So you might be able to see on the side here, I kind of have...
oh, yeah.
Can you see the orange underneath?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Tiny sliver of it.
Yeah, you can kind of see it there. But basically I'll have an orange or a pink or some kind of warm tone ground underneath. And that's because if I backlight the canvas in a way that sort of suits the composition, it means that when you make a palette, it can kind of add to it rather than if you paint on a white canvas, for example, each color will look very bright and they might sort of, how do I say this? I think they can look really bright and each of the colors in your palette can sort of stand out way too much. But if you want to dull some colors down and bring stuff into the background and make a sense of depth, then you kind of need to work with the midground, because then you can make things lighter and darker. But if you put things on white, then it only gets darker, if that makes sense. So I'll do the tone ground, and then I'll do an underpainting, which is when I'll use probably a burnt umber or raw sienna or some kind of earthy color, and I'll draw out some kind of like a value painting. So it's just lines, darkest parts, lightest parts, a little bit of detail, just to make sure that the composition I have in my mind is actually going to work. So for example, the tree painting here was quite interesting because I drew it out, and obviously you can see this line along there and then up, and then with a big tree in the middle that's all quite concentrated. But I knew if I had the value contrast, so if I had the really light at the foreground and the really dark at the bottom, it would then draw your eye back down again. And that's not really something you can do with just a pencil. You need to kind of paint it in. So it's kind of tests like that. And then you start thinking, well, actually that shadow could be a bit lower, or it's kind of fixing mistakes before you make the mistake. And then you start background to foreground. So then skies first, then anything that's, you know, really far back, and then you'll work towards until the final details. So this painting here, the final thing I did was, you know, the grass at the bottom, and maybe a bit of detail in the tree birds, because that's the main focus, but usually it's background to foreground.
That's fascinating. That's amazing. Yeah, so it's doing the painting underneath that no one will see.
Yeah. I think actually on Instagram I've done a sort of time lapse of this one specifically, where I took photographs of all the stages, so you can see a video of it changing from start to finish. That might explain what I've said a little bit better.
And what's the most recent piece you've been working on at the moment?
I finished 2 pieces today. Like I said, there's a show on Wednesday, so I'm rapidly finishing loads of things. And I do these little miniatures. Basically when we went into lockdown, I just finished a fair, and I had other things planned. I had the open studios planned, I had some more summer events, and they all got cancelled, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I started making these tiny miniatures at sort of affordable prices, which were a hit, and then started getting bigger again. And I thought for this exhibition, I'd just go down to miniatures again. And so I made a little miniature, and I have been making miniatures for the show. And I finished a miniature this morning, and then a painting at this big. So I'm sizing down again.
And these are in your show in Rye, and this is with Scarlett Woodman.
Yes, Scarlett Woodman.
So tell us a bit more about that show and how we can go and see it and where we've got to go.
So I have the leaflet here. This happened to be sitting about. And you will see them because we have been dishing them out everywhere. You'll see them in Rye, in Tenterden, in Bidderden, in any kind of villages or towns that are on the way to Rye from us. And it is starting on Wednesday, the 30th of September, and it goes on until the 12th of October in Rye at the Red Door Alchemist Gallery, which is on the High Street. We're both exhibiting together. It is run by both of us. You know, the gallery opens the space rather than the gallery running it for us. So we'll be there to answer questions or say hello. And her work is amazing. We both are very into Kent and landscapes, and we have a very similar sort of passion for why we make work. But I love that we just come up with such different results. She makes these beautiful corrugated iron pieces where she scratches in beautiful trees and Bidderden or Kentish scenes, and so I'm really excited to be sharing with her. She's got incredible work.
And so through your journey, you've started curating the show and you've done all these different initiatives for yourself. Have there been any standout people that have really helped you and encouraged you? It doesn't sound like your early years teachers are these people.
I mean, there are loads of artists. I mean, I'm constantly looking for new artists that show me new things or inspire me in new ways. So I kind of think there's always something, an artist along the road that, encourages you. But in terms of people around me, my family have always been very supportive. Friends have always said, "Honey, you've got this." My friend Emma, when we were in lockdown, she, we were both frantically looking for jobs because I was thinking about doing something else for a while. And then lockdown happened and she said, "Oh, I'm stuck." And I said, "Oh, I don't know either." She said, "Hannah, you've got a job. What are you doing? You are an artist." So I think maybe to everyone around me more than me, it's been very clear that art was the thing to do. And they're very keen for me to be doing it. So I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, I love that. That you have a job, you are an artist. That's really, really nice.
Yeah.
And also, do you have any advice for the artists watching that's just come from your experience and everything you've been doing?
I think I'm so new in the game. I've barely been doing it for a year, and I'm really just faking it till I make it. So, so I'm not sure, but I know that social media has been such a huge sort of clients come in, mailing lists, all of that stuff. If you keep that consistent, you do get results. I'm sending some stuff to a gallery in Rome, but I don't know if gallery representation is really needed anymore. I think lockdown has really changed things for us, and I think galleries will either rise up out of the ashes or fall down. But because we have these platforms to ourselves, we don't have to rely on them anymore. So I think a new outlet, gallery representation isn't everything. But keep doing social media, keep pushing your work, and even if you don't believe in yourself, still have the confidence. I really think that that's a big part of it. Showing people that you believe in yourself, that's a good one. I
love that, the fake it till you make it.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, fantastic. And we've got a couple of questions here for you. Annie says, were you this organised at art college?
Organised, yes. Yeah, I like my plans. I like my to-do lists. I like all of that. And I definitely went there with the attitude of like, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna take what they're gonna give me. And so I kind of looked for it. I looked for the work and I looked for getting results. And I wanted to try my hardest and come out of university knowing that I've tried my hardest. And I think that's a good attitude for most things. So yeah, I think the passion kind of forces you to be organised.
Leslie says, can we please see some of your mini paintings? Do you have any of it? Was that through the Artist Support Pledge you sold those?
Yeah. I saw it one evening before it was a thing. I thought, oh, that's cool. And then it became a thing. And then I thought, oh, I probably should get on that. Unfortunately, my best ones, no, not my best ones. Unfortunately, my latest ones are all at the framers for this show. But I do have a couple here. I was working on a lot of cloud pieces.
Wow.
Not sure if you can see that. And from my studio window, that there's some good scenes. You can get some good skies. So this is from my studio window, and then my bedroom's above my studio. So that was a bedroom window, like morning scene, and it was all this sort of wispy clouds and macro clouds across these sort of lines. I don't have any more. I'm sorry.
No, that's lovely. We'll have to come to the show on Wednesday.
Yeah, there'll be loads on Wednesday. I've got far too many things, but.
And Carol says you were stitching your canvases together a couple of weeks ago. Did it work?
A few weeks ago. Yes, I think so. Yes. I usually stitch them and prime them and then leave them to dry for a long time, because the tension with the stitching, you have to make sure that you go up and down quite a few times and also make it neat, and you don't want the canvas to fray. So you have to prime it, well, you have to stretch it very evenly, but I like stretching canvases, it's a good thing. And then if you prime it and prime it again, once that has worked as a sort of a size, then you know that the stitching is going to work. So it's fine once you paint over it. By the time I get to painting, I know that it's a strong canvas.
Excellent. Oh, and Leslie's popped up.
I'm here. It's absolutely fascinating. I particularly love the concept of the stitching idea. I love those cloud paintings, though.
Thank you.
Absolutely stunning. Did you say mackerel sky?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone know what mackerel sky is?
The mackerel sky you can see in this one. That's a very mackerel. It's a sort of floppy. That's a really bad description. But
it's fish scales, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like fish scales.
Yeah.
I only learnt what a mackerel sky was on Saturday. Because my mother-in-law said it. Exactly. My mother-in-law said something about a mackerel sky. I was like, sorry, what, are there mackerels coming out of the sky? And she explained what it was. So when you said it, I was like, look, there's someone else who knows what that's people who did geography, Molly.
That's not me.
I was kicked out of geography at about age 12. So we don't know anything about sky, but I love these. Can we have a look at is that quite a portrait, a panoramic down there?
Hang on, I'm going to yank them.
Look at this one. Wow. That's stunning. Look at that. You can almost see the cornfields and the grass moving, can't you?
Yeah,
you have a very particular style. It's very distinctive, your style.
Well, that's good, I guess.
That's a really good thing. Yeah, no, you have a very distinctive style. It's not looking like it's somebody else.
I've also just managed to make some prints and proofs of work for this show as well, which I'm very excited about. When they're wrapped in the cellophane, they look super, super shiny.
Yeah, they look lovely, don't they? When things are kind of like, you put them on a bit of a mount and wrap them in the cellophane, they look gorgeous.
Wow.
Look how shiny. Yeah.
I do actually. I think you and Scarlett are a really good match. We've shown Scarlett's work and sold quite a lot of Scarlett's work before at the Pure shows, and we've done commissions with Scarlett as well for some of our collectors. And it's on found objects. Is her father a builder or something?
Yes.
Yeah. So he finds things, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that ethical, ecological tone to your show, where you're talking about the earth and how we need to, be ecologically aware. And hers is recycled and reused objects. She uses big bits of wood, doesn't she, as well?
Yeah, huge.
I'd really encourage people to go to this show in Rye. How long's it on for, Hannah?
It's on for just under 2 weeks. But yeah,
not long.
We worked very hard to make it as environmentally friendly as possible. My packaging is all compostable, and I reuse all sorts of materials when I ship work and move it around. So we do really try hard to make sure we're not doing too much damage to the environment.
That's really, really good to know, because I think that's important to people, especially after what we've all experienced in lockdown. Do you frame your work? or do you sell it just like that without the frame? I can see one behind you is framed in a tray frame.
And this one is framed in a sort of box frame here. And yes, I do frame a lot of it. My framer Max is incredible. I love him. He is so much fun. He's framing so much of my stuff at the moment. I know that if I go out of business soon, he's definitely not, because I've given him so many things. So yes, I frame some of it, and it can be framed to order if people decide that that's what they want to do. Of course, I can sort that out. But some people like it, you know, with the canvas on the side. The unprimed bit sometimes makes it look more organic. So,
they can, as you say, they can see the ground, they can see the integrity of the painting when you haven't got it in. Do you generally frame in white, or is that?
Yes, I have a very specific frame, and Max knows all of my specifications, because I also frame with a natural grain. So if you look closely, I don't think you'll be able to see it on the camera, but it's a natural grain with a white wash, so you can kind of see a little tiny bit of the wood. You know, it doesn't look too plastic. I think it gives it a good organic frame.
Kind of complementary, isn't it, to what to the story that you're telling with this being aware of nature, and it has that texture in it.
Exactly.
I think framing is really important, and especially when you're presenting your artwork out to the world. It's something that I'm asked a lot about, framing, advice for framing. And as an artist, you know, going forward, it's nice to know that you've delivered the work out into the world exactly how you would like to see it framed. So having a kind of house style is a really, really good thing to establish quite early on. And I'm really pleased you talked a lot about the social media side and how, you know, this is really important now. I know our next guest is Flutter, and she contacted you, didn't she?
Yes.
I'm going to bring Flick back up on the screen. Let's show Flick. Let's hope she's not drinking a cup of tea or doing anything awkward. No, she's there. That would have been a moment, wouldn't it? So you guys have actually had a chat, haven't you, about social media and help with social media? Because we said be more Hannah, hashtag be more Hannah. So how did that come about, Flick? You had a chat with, you contacted Hannah.
Yes, I think I was trying to post more than a still image and a video or something, and I think I talked to both Hannah and Scarlett, and they sort of pointed me in the direction of other apps to use, which was great. Yes.
Yeah, it can be quite confusing.
There are all these apps out there now, aren't there, that you can use? I know Molly's doing us a PDF on how to make videos with text overlay, and that's an app, isn't it? You use an app to do that.
Yeah.
And we're also looking at we'll be doing more PDFs on how-tos, because now, as you correctly say, artists, this is another means of artists, you know, exhibiting and selling their work. So they need to be more into the social media like you have been. So brilliant. You're you're setting a very good example. and I think your work's beautiful. So yeah, everybody get down to the show in Rye, and it opens
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday, yeah.
Oh, and I don't suppose you're doing a private view or anything, are you?
No, but we've decided, well, instead I had a sunflower in my studio that I've just taken down and harvested all the seeds. So instead of champagne and private views, we have sunflower seeds that I'm going to hand out as a sort of, sorry, but here you go.
Oh, that's really lovely. That's really lovely. I know, it's trying to work out how to have that, create that relationship, isn't it?
Or just sort of bring some light in light of these circumstances.
I'm going to channel you with our finissage on Thursday, because when you did your live, you all had champagne.
Yeah, we did. It was good.
And I think that is a very good idea. And I'm going to be more Hannah on Thursday, and we're going to have champagne.
I encourage you to do so. It's good fun.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you, Molly. That's been absolutely brilliant.
Well, thank you.
And we're going to swap screens now. So it's going to be Felicity is going to come up, and we're going to have a chat with Felicity. So thank you. Good luck for Wednesday.
Thank you.
And we will. Yeah, and we will. I will try and get down to see the show. I am in Rye on Thursday.
Excellent.
So I've got to come up and. things are going very well with this ART360. So lots of artists are telling me that they're being contacted by people, and I had just one while you were on air saying that they've been contacted and they've sold 2 pieces already. So that's really encouraging that they're getting lots of contact. And I've got to go and pick up a piece of work because one of our collectors saw what we were doing and asked if they could be interested. They would be interested in some of the work. So yeah, that's encouraging. The artwork is selling. So yeah, I've got to go to Rye. So I will pop in and see you. What time are you open?
10 till 5.
10 till 5. Oh, that's okay then. Yeah, no, plenty of time. All right. Well, I will see you on Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. And we will pop Hannah down. We're going to unfocus the... Don't panic, Molly. Don't panic. Oh, Molly's gone. There we are. Don't panic, Molly. You're not going to be on the screen for very long. She's like, now what do I do? I've got no one to interview. So, hello, Flick.
Hi there.
How are you? That was amazing, wasn't it?
That was fascinating. Yes, and somebody so young. It's really inspirational to see, her enthusiasm. It's terrific.
Yeah, no, I thought that, and I thought interesting to compare her process with your process, bearing in mind she's done landscapes and now doing skyscapes, and you did landscapes and then went on to seascapes. So we'll have a chat about that.
Different medium.
Yeah, hold that thought, because she's doing. Yes. Yeah, you're doing watercolor, aren't you?
I am.
So let's just have a look at your page in the magazine, just so people know how to contact you. And there we go. So there's the magazine.
Page 60.
Page 60. I love it when someone knows what page they're on. There we go. Next door to Andy Hill. Look at that. Yeah. I think it's amazing how these pages have turned out, because they're so complementary. A lot of the double page spreads. It's amazing. So you can email Felicity there, and that's her Gmail. And then you've got the website and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. So you're all over that social media.
I am a bit.
And again, we will talk. And there's a nice video there that you made, which I was really impressed with. So people can have a look at that as well. You can.
Well, you've made me acquire a new skill.
Yeah, we have been pushing everyone's boundaries, haven't we?
Yeah. I'd never done that. I did it in Photoshop, and yeah.
I'm going to hand the screen over to you, because everyone is fed up of looking at me, I'm sure by now. I hope that this experience has shown people that it's okay. We can embrace these new skills, can't we? And actually
give them a go.
Yeah, we're just going to give it a go, and it's going to be okay. We're all going to survive, and if we do it all together, we're kind of like all in this boat together. Sorry about that pun there. But we're all in this boat together. So speaking of boats and journeys, where did it all begin for you? Were you an artist right from a child? Did you have a lot of artistry influences in your childhood?
Yes, definitely. Especially my mum really encouraged us to draw, and I think she used to make us do our own Christmas cards and thank you cards. And she had, although she wasn't artistic herself, she had 3 half sisters who were very artistic, and still are. And my dad he inherited a lot of paintings, watercolors. So I grew up with those on the wall, and he was also a keen buyer. And they never once, discouraged me from my art. They were wonderful. Yes. My mum had a very difficult upbringing, and she really wanted us to have freedom to do what we wanted to do. We did run a little bit wild at times, but
didn't we all?
Yeah, yes. So no, I had an idyllic childhood, and yes, yeah, which was just fantastic, and very good schooling with great art departments. And I went to school in Brighton, and the sea was right there, and so there are lots of influences that go back, which kind of making me think now. Having moved over to seascapes, I can kind of see where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But then I went to do a sixth form in London, and I spent most of my time my spare time out and about in art galleries. I became a member of the Tate and went to lectures. It was just fantastic. And then went to art college in London.
Which art college did you go to?
I did my foundation at St Martin's, and I tried to get back in to do graphics, but I didn't get in. So I then went to Kingston Polytechnic. And I'm glad that I did. I think that was the last year they took people on a second choice, and I absolutely loved it there.
You did graphics, did you?
I did graphics, yes. I started off wanting to be an architect, but I was no good at maths.
Do you need to be good at maths for it? I suppose.
Really?
Do
yes. And I was rubbish at it.
I wanted to be an architect, and I didn't pursue it, and now I'm kind of glad because I'm rubbish at maths.
Yes, well, there we are. Yes. And I think I got into St Martin's on my sculpture when I was at school in London. I think the first year I was a boarder, and the art room was at the top of the house. It was 3 beautiful terraced houses at the school, and I used to sneak at night into the art room and play around with polyfiller and bits of wire and all sorts of things, making sculptures. And back home, we had a gardener, and he used to let me mess around in his shed with bits of wood and nails and paint and what have you. But then I think I decided myself that actually graphics would be a better career.
We hear this quite often, don't we? That
we do, yes.
It's like, oh, but I had to think about a career, and it was so lovely to hear Hannah's friends say to her, "But you've got a job." Yes, you are an artist.
Yeah.
That's so refreshing to hear that that's accepted now. Yes, because same with me. I was kind of pushed down that graphics road. I didn't pursue it in the end, but so you did graphics.
It's very, very useful. I mean, it means now that I can produce my own posters and all this type of thing. And with all the arts administration I've done, it's been a huge asset.
Yes, because you work on the Cranbrook Art Show, Southeast Open Studios. You help out at SGFA, don't you?
Yes, Cranbrook, I do all the graphics and for that. Yes, and I think I designed the front cover, the latest front cover for the Southeast Open Studios way back. Although Terry produces it, and it's changed a bit, but it was my idea to put the images down the side and what have you. But I mean, we worked as a team when I was on the Southeast Open Studios committee. So yes.
So how did you start painting then? So if you did the graphics, did you go straight into a graphics career, or did you start painting?
I did, yes. I worked on sales, promotion, advertising, which is kind of money off and competitions and that type of thing. And I had 10 years working for a company called KLP, who I think they became KLP PLC in the end. And we moved from a very small, beautiful old building. I started off in Shepherd's Market. And then we moved to another a sort of a better studio space, moved away from the main office. And I worked in the studio there, and I was doing typography and finished art. And then we moved to Lancaster Gate, to a fantastic building there, and I absolutely loved my years there. It was inspirational, and the life. We spent a lot of time in the pub.
I thought you were going to say the park then, but no.
We did go to the park. Yes, we did. Yes, absolutely.
We spent a lot of time in the park. No, in the pub. Oh, those were the days.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it was a wonderful life, and
Because Lancaster Gate is quite near Hyde Park, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it overlooking Hyde Park? Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was not far to walk to it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember those days.
So those were very good years, and then I think I decided that once I'd moved out of London, once I'd left KLP, I went freelance for a while, and I commuted into London. I was living in Worcester Park, and then I moved down to East Sussex, and commuted up. And the pressure was too much, really, in the end. There was a lot of overtime. And then I got married and had my daughter. And I just decided that I'd like to have a go at painting, and it would actually be an easier life. So I went to some lessons, and I think after about a year, she said, "You're too good at this. There's nothing I can teach you. Go away."
Where was that? Was that like a local person? Was that a local person teaching you? Oh.
Yes, it was in Staplehurst, and she's still painting and teaching, I believe. But
who was that? Go on, name and shame.
Actually, her name's completely disappeared out of my head. But,
okay.
Yeah, my short-term memory isn't great, and if I haven't written it down, I won't remember. But yeah, no, she was lovely, and so after that, I just you learn as you're going along.
She did a really good job, so she deserves the credit.
Yes, she does. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. We'll remember her name at some point.
Yes.
So at that point, were you painting landscapes then?
I was. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
so you're mainly doing
landscapes. Something I'll show you.
Have you got some of those?
I've kept a few, as you say, for my pension and for the children, the grandchildren to inherit. So.
Oh, beautiful.
So that one, which is the pond at Buchanan, when it was flooded.
Look at all those reflections as well.
Yeah.
So again, such a skill to it, and this is watercolor still.
Yes. But I mean, most of my paintings either had sheep or water in, one or the other. I think I was quite well known for my little sheep. But yes, and the
color palette, because that's quite a distinct color palette, isn't it?
Yes. And tonally, the colours are quite strong usually, and yes, I like a lot of dark tones to complement the highlights.
Which is unusual for someone painting in watercolour.
Yes, my watercolours were never particularly soft.
They're not very watercolour-y, are they?
No, I think they almost look sort of more gouache-like, really.
Yeah. Because for a while I didn't think they were watercolours. I thought, these must be acrylics when I first saw your work. And because the depth of colour that you get in there, and as you say, watercolour and a lot of pencil now you use, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So what made you transition from the landscapes into what we know you for now, really, which are these amazing seascapes and waves and water?
I think I like to challenge myself, and I think I felt that I'd gone as far as I could with it in a way that I wasn't, I was just doing more of the same, really. And when I moved to Peasmarsh, it takes me 15 minutes to get down to the beach, and was sort of down there walking one day with my camera, and I came back and I'd photographed waves, and I thought, this is interesting. Why don't I have a go at that? And it kind of just went from there. I wanted to produce them in a way that was different than other seascapes. I mean, most people who paint waves and seascapes are probably doing it in oils, acrylics. And I had just joined the SGFA, and I thought, well, why don't I combine watercolour with drawing? And if I put pencil in my seascapes, it'll give them that sort of greyish English Channel feeling to them. Because I didn't want them to look like Caribbean waves or something like that. So yes, and I've just loved doing them, and it's actually given me, I think, a little bit more freedom than landscapes. I know that, in a way, Hannah and I are both very representational in the way that we do our landscapes. The seascapes, although they're very detailed, I can leave bits out and do what I like with them. And my latest ones actually have got quite a sort of blank sky behind them, and the waves, I'm looking at a lower viewpoint, and they're splashing right up into the sky almost.
Have you got some of those there that you could show us?
Hang on a minute.
This is the moment that terrifies me, as everyone takes their headphones out and we think they're going to pull the laptop on the floor.
Absolutely. I think you're probably best to look on my website, actually.
Oh, okay, let's do that then. Let's have a little look on your website. Okay.
I just put few new ones up.
Okay.
The other day.
Which
and there's
page?
One called Flare. So if you go to Seascapes, if you scroll down.
Okay, I'll put it up and then you can guide us through.
If you scroll down the page.
Right. Okay.
Click on Seascapes on the left. Right, so go down a bit. Bit more. Where is it? Sorry, back up again. Okay. Where is it? Back up a bit more. There it is. The one on the far right. Flare, it's called.
Flare.
That one.
Oh, wow. That is so Turner. It's got so much quality of Turner in it, hasn't it? Wow.
Actually, when I started doing those, I was very influenced by a photographer that I've been seeing on Instagram called Rachel Talibert. And she goes down and photographs a lot at New Haven. The wall there makes the waves really splash up, and they smash against the wall. But yes, and she does a lot of photographs that in this vein, and I thought, wow, let's see if I can try going in that direction, because actually the reference for that had sea in the background, but if you take that out and just put sky, it's very dramatic, isn't it?
It's really dramatic. I mean, I literally, as soon as I saw that, I was like, it's the colour palette and the mark making. It's just, if it could be an element out of a Turner painting. It's just got the mark making, and that must be the combination of the pencil and the watercolour.
Yes, it's I paint, draw, and it's lots of layers that go on. I mean, I can do up to sort of 10 layers sometimes.
Oh, wow. So talk to us a bit about that process. So you start off with either an inspiration of seeing a photograph, or you take your own photographs?
Oh, I take my own. I put my camera on repeat exposure. So when I'm doing something like that piece, I've probably been working from about 4 images, and I bring them up into Photoshop and I drag bits around, and I might sort of pull them and make them bigger or more dramatic, and then I print that out and work from that.
So you have one reference, so you've already done the work in Photoshop, and then you have a reference. Exactly.
So it's almost like sort of sketching but on the computer kind of thing. I do a thumbnail sketch first, and then work from there. Yeah.
And Hannah was saying, so Hannah puts the ground down, prepares her own canvas, and then so what's your base, what's the substrate that you work on? Is it paper, or do you work on
I mostly work on Fabriano Artistico, which has a slight texture on it. And then I'll probably roughly draw it up, and then just sort of mask bits off. And then I usually start. I always start with the sky, because that kind of influences the colour that you're putting down, and the rest of it as well.
So you started this one with the sky, did you?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look at that one again. So this one started with the sky, which is amazing.
And then I'll put sort of layers down in the sky, and I might take some of it out as well with sort of bits of Kleenex or whatever. And then
I've got this picture of you now with a roll of Kleenex.
Yeah,
just rubbing.
I think you just, as the years go by, you just, find techniques that work for you, don't you?
Yeah.
And I always try and get the light somewhere, that the wave is catching the light somehow.
And so how do you create that light then?
Well, it's just building up the light is catching is usually sort of orangey or browns, whatever, in that little bit that's sticking up the top.
Yes, up here. Yeah.
And again, there's another little bit on the right that's catching a bit of the sunlight. I think it's,
Yeah, amazing. So let's have a look at another one, because these are just incredible. So this one is more graphite. So has this not got it very much watercolour in, or is that a lot of watercolour?
Yeah, it has. Yes, there are some Daniel Smith paints. He produced some fantastic different greys, and I've been using those. There's sort of blue greys, green greys, browny greys, and yeah, no, it's fascinating actually. I mean, grey is an extraordinary colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's,
yeah.
I mean, there's some reference that, you know, actually the colours are so dull that it actually they work better as black and white paintings. And actually, for a while, certainly the black and white ones sold better than the colour ones, which was quite interesting.
I think everyone went through a bit of a monochrome period.
Yeah.
So this is a completely different, this is like the beach scene as the water is kind of either going out or coming in.
Yeah, that again was down at Rye Harbour, and that was actually a walk we did on Boxing Day. You wouldn't think it, would you, necessarily?
No, look at that sky though.
Yeah. So that was also an afternoon, and obviously it was just, the sun was beginning to disappear, and it just, I went down there, and it has just this fabulous shapes that get made in the sand down there.
You can see the shows. It has got that crisp quality to it, definitely. But it could be an early spring day, couldn't it?
It could be, yes.
And then you've got, this is something that is familiar to me that you do quite often, which is the, is this at Peven, not at Pevensey?
It's at Pett. It's Cliff End, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like that anymore because of all the rock falls that have been there. It's changed a bit, which is quite nice. So if I, you know, I have done another one down there. Next time I do one from down there, it'll look different because the rocks are not like that in the foreground anymore.
No, nice so it's kind of capturing the history.
Yes, yeah.
And you've got some birds in that one.
Yes.
It's a bit like kind of the device you had with the sheep. Put some birds in that one.
Yeah, I've just done one with birds in it, which I can't show you because it'll be my next submission for next year for the RI, so I have to keep that under my hat for a minute.
Oh, that has to say quiet. So this is the groins, isn't it? Is this a groin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, actually that was Southwold, but actually the water was from Southwold, but the groin is from South Coast, because the one that was actually at Southwold was too regular a shape.
So that's the artistic license, isn't it? That's
Completely.
The artistic license of being able to, as you say, create your images in Photoshop and then paint what you've envisaged. And as Hannah said, there's always going to be a tree somewhere that looks like that. There's always going to be a wave somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're doing the waves now, and we can see that there's progress. What have you been doing during lockdown? Has that changed even more?
Yes, I started playing around with liquid graphite, which comes in a pot, and it's fascinating stuff. And mixing it with a granulation medium. So actually, I'll do this one first. Go the right way up.
Gosh, look at that.
And so that was sort of looking at reference from looking down from a pier down onto the water.
Yeah, like an aerial view.
Yeah, you get this fantastic sort of shapes that the granulation makes. And if you put it down and drop the granulation medium on top and just sort of move the paper around, it'll do extraordinary things. I don't know if you can. Where are we? All right, we'll put this the right way up. I don't know if you can see on the bottom right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They look like cauldrons.
Yeah.
Cauldrons bubbling.
Yeah.
As the sea's boiling. So you say these are from south. You originally...
Yes, I also went down to Hastings and stood on the sea wall that's down on the eastern end of the beach there, near the car park.
Rock and Ore.
That's it, yeah. And that was another one that was just not looking down, but yeah.
As you say, you're starting to go on a lower view, aren't you? A lower eye line view.
Yes.
And then over the top. Wow. So what do you think you're going to do with those? Are they destined for an exhibition or?
I think I'm going to paint some more. I'd like a series of them, and then I think I'm probably going to box frame them and float them, because I've done this torn decal edge on them.
Yeah, I love that.
So
there's a slight hint of green in that one. Is that right? Did you see that?
Yes, it's Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you could have them as a set, or as Carol did. She had them like all within like one framed large piece of paper, didn't she? She had like lots.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm loving to see how people's practice is moving on during lockdown and how they're experimenting and taking this opportunity to really experiment and try new things. Did you try anything else?
Yes, I haven't been doing sketchbooks for that long, but I had to produce sketchbooks to get into the Society of Graphic Fine Art. So I've been playing around with things in let's find something. So again, that's very different.
Gosh, that's very colourful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
What was the reference for that? Where were you taking the reference for that?
That kind of came out of my head, and also sort of looking at other things online.
We've all had to look online, haven't we? And
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and you find yourself kind of getting slightly influenced by what other people are doing, and then again, there's another one that came out of my head.
Yeah. As Vincent says, much looser than your normal style, but these are just sketches, aren't they? These are just...
I mean, that's
you
nothing
can see
like
your
I've done
lovely
before.
marks.
Yes.
You can see the lovely marks in there, but they're watercolours, are they?
Yes, that's mixed media. There's a lot of pencil in there. Yeah.
So have you enjoyed spending time in, because this is a new studio that you've had built just before lockdown, wasn't it?
No, it was 2015. I've been in here. Yes. So for a while, it was 2015. No, April 2017.
2017. Oh wow.
Yes.
So is this the longest period of time you've kind of spent working in there during lockdown, or are you very disciplined and you have lots of time in your studio?
I'm not particularly disciplined, and I think it's from an eyesight point of view, and I get migraines. I can't work for long periods. I need to sort of pace myself. So that's when, sneaky look at Instagram, just to give yourself a bit of a rest. I'm not sure it gives my eyes a rest. But,
I was going to say, your eyes are still looking at it.
Yeah. Quick wander around the garden, go for a walk, come back. Yes.
Yeah. You are quite good on Instagram, aren't you? Quite active on Instagram, which is impressive. I
think because for a while, I think 1 year with Open Studios, I was doing social media. I was doing about 3 different jobs. I was doing publicity, social media, and I was doing the area coordinator's officer's job. And that was 2013, and that all got a bit too much, I have to say. And I've now sort of moved away slightly from all this admin, and now got the studio. I can think about what I want to do a bit more.
Yes, it's important to be a little bit selfish sometimes and just think about yourself. You've earned the right to do that. And you've done so much helping other artists, like with the Cranbrook Art Show and with South Open Studios. You really have done so much. A lot of artists owe you a lot of gratitude for all of the hours and years of your life that you put in to supporting them doing that. It's such a shame that Cranbrook can't happen this year.
Yes, but the vestry hall is too small. We just can't do social distancing.
So and now with all this latest, it just would have been a shame to have gone through
it was the right decision. And actually, I think we've all benefited really from having a year off, and the committee, that is.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll come back with renewed energy next year. Let's hope.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows what next year holds, but it'll be
absolutely
different and exciting, and you've all done so many interesting things. I know you went on a residency with Louisa.
We haven't been yet.
You are going.
Yeah, she's already been there, and which is Cape Cornwall. And actually we were going in April, and we're now going supposedly next March. So actually I quite like the odd gale. I don't think that Louisa and Sue are going to quite want the same weather that I want.
So you're going with Louisa Crispin and Sue Scullard.
Yes.
And you often do open studios together, don't you, at Louisa's?
Yes. We've stopped at the minute, and I was going to do it from my own studio here for the first time this year. So I may well do that next year. But
but you're all going to do this residency. Yes. I think Carol Berry was talking about residencies, and I think she'd probably quite like to come with you. I'm not sure she'd like the Gale idea though.
No, probably not. No.
And Sue does like a very, very intricate woodcuts, doesn't she?
That's right, wood engravings.
Wood engravings. So that'll be really interesting to see what
yes.
Because Louise has come up with some really different and innovative work on her previous residency. So yeah, I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
And you've also done Wilderness Art Collective?
Yes, I think I went with Louisa to an exhibition up in London at the Royal Geographic Society, which is not far from the Albert Hall, as a local artist, Polly Bennett, had joined, and she did Cranbrook, another young artist. And so we went up to see her work there, and we absolutely loved the exhibition, and it's such a diverse group. And we hope that it would actually take us in a very different direction, really, because certainly what we're doing is very mainstream compared with what some of the things that they're doing. There's a lot of film, and there's somebody who does wild swimming, and her art is comes from that, and a lot of it's a really interesting group. We had an online exhibition this summer, and they did interviews and all sorts of things.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see where that leads. I'm really quite excited about that.
I love the idea of that. I'm going to look them up. Wilderness Art Collective. Yeah, I'm going to look them up. I love that idea. I'm not going to do wild swimming, and I don't anyone ask me to. But I love the idea of watching someone else do it.
Yes. We were supposed to be having a field studies week, and I was kind of organising that. There were going to be 4 of us, because there are 2 other members who live near Battle, which we were going to do at Rye Harbour next year. But that's kind of slightly on hold at the minute. We don't know what's happening.
But I'd be interested to know the people who live near Battle then.
Somebody called Sam Peacock.
Oh, okay.
Look him up. Yes, well, you'll find him on the Wilderness Art Collective.
Yes, I'll look up Wilderness Art Collective. If they're living near me, then it's a shame if I don't know them, especially if they're wild swimming.
Yeah, we've met so many people through it. And I think Louisa is a good example. She pushes me as well, because to actually get out there and meet other people and find out what's going on and join things, and you never know where it's going to lead, and it's usually something quite exciting.
That's really good advice, and I think that's come through from lots of the of these interviews, is that you have to show up and you have to help and you have to get involved, because if you don't, then you'll miss a lot of the... Gigi knows Sam Peacock, excellent. I'll be talking to you about him. So you have to get involved, and you have to get to know your peers and other people. Find your tribe. There could be several tribes for you. And then you find these things that are so unexpected that you wouldn't have ever thought about yourself.
No.
What other advice would you...
The SGFA, certainly I've always been involved with helping to hang the exhibition. And it's you get used to hanging your own work, but, learning how to hang a group exhibition, it's wonderful. And the people you meet, and it all leads on to something else.
But they get to know you, don't they? And then when someone says, "Oh, I'm looking for an artist who does this," you're at front of mind because you've been there and interacting with them. What other advice would you give to artists coming up? Because you've exhibited widely and you're in lots of groups and you've done lots of things. What advice would you offer to those who want to, get their foot on the ladder and start going?
I think you've just got to believe in yourself and keep trying. And we all get rejected. I've had rejections this year, but you've just got to. It's not a competition, is it? There's room for everybody, and I think I've been at exhibitions and felt that the abstract artists there probably didn't like my work, and they didn't really think that representational work was proper art, and that it just looks like a photograph kind of thing, which I get a lot of the time. Oh, it looks just like a photograph. Well, actually, if you look closely, it doesn't really.
No, it doesn't at all.
It's very different. And if I put the photo reference next to it that I work from, very often people go, "Oh,
it's not photographic at all."
But, there's room for everybody. It doesn't matter. And very often I had the last laugh because I sold more than they did. But you know.
Yes, you do sell very well. I think that's really good, is that be confident in your own ability because and your own work, because it's not a competition. No. And sometimes the rejections are more significant than the acceptances. You get rejected, then all of a sudden something appears left of field that you weren't expecting, and you know that you wouldn't have been able to do it if you had been accepted by the other thing that would have been completely wrong for you. So see them as, I always think blessings.
Sometimes I think, I'm glad I didn't get into that one, because I can put it somewhere else. And if you have that mindset, it helps.
That's what Louisa said, wasn't it? She was glad that she didn't get into a show, because then she got into Pure, and then she got into the Saatchi, and she wouldn't have done any of those things if she got into the one that she was rejected from.
Yes.
So, absolutely. Always have the attitude of, this is an opportunity. It's not, rejection is not a negative thing. It's a negative word that creates a feeling of unhappiness, but we can change that into a negative word that gives us a feeling of excitement if we choose to. That we have that opportunity. So no, I think it is attitude again, isn't it? It's attitude.
You never know what's going to happen. I mean, during lockdown, I got one of those emails that you practically fall off your chair, and it was from Artists and Illustrators magazine. Would you like to feature in the magazine? And so of course I said yes. And I got, I thought it was going to be a shared one. It was going to be something called they call In the Studio. And I ended up with 3 double-page spreads. And I got sales from that, and I got all sorts. And I did share it shamelessly on the social media.
I think shameless sharing is essential when you get things like that.
But that was just wonderful. And
I think I shared it. I think I shared it shamelessly for you as well.
Thank you.
We were very proud of you. I think that's it, isn't it? That's what social media is for.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky that I've got a name that nobody else has. That does help.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I did say to you, didn't I? Is it okay to call you Flick as opposed to Felicity? Because I think by the time I've said Felicity 4 times, I'll be calling you Francis, which is what I was doing to poor Francis when the other day when I was getting you all mixed up. No, I think that's really good advice. And look what happened. And it is not a competition. There is enough space for everybody. There's and everybody's got different tastes. So there's a buyer out there for everybody, literally. So have you been involved in some of these online exhibitions then during lockdown?
Well, the one I did, the one with Wilderness Art Collective.
Oh, right. That was
and
online.
I've just got the Kent Painters one coming up. I've done Kent Painters exhibition, which is held at Sevenoaks School for a number of years. And so
that's a charitable event, isn't it?
Yes, it's mostly for mental health charities. Very successful, and it's been good. So we'll see how that goes online, and I think I've submitted for about 3 things this week, so we'll see what happens.
They're all online?
Not all online, no, but I won't say what they are because I might not get into all of them.
And often when you were in the real world, you would do demonstrations, wouldn't you? Do you miss that, not doing the demonstrations?
They're a bit scary, but I'm getting used to them. And the trouble is with me, it's a bit like watching paint dry. So I tend to just demonstrate skies because that's probably the quickest thing I can do. Yes, I demonstrated at Bankside, and so I need to follow Louisa and try and do a demo one of these days at the Mall Galleries. But we'll see.
Did you know what a mackerel sky was? I bet you did.
I did, yes, because when I was in my primary school, I won a geography prize, and the book was one of those. They were Ladybird books, weren't they?
Yeah.
And it was a clouds book. So yes.
See, you have to be into geography, and as I say, I was kicked out of geography at 12. They said my dad was most upset because he was in the Merchant Navy, and he was very annoyed that I was not very good at geography.
I think that my father was a sailor. He was in the Navy too, so and so I used to sail with him in my teens, and one thing I absolutely loved was sitting up in the bows or the prow of the boat and hanging. It usually had a sort of railing just round the bow, and I used to sit there with my legs hanging over the edge, and as the boat went up and down in the waves, And I'll actually never forget that, looking at that water. And that's kind of come back to me as well since I've started doing waves. And
yeah, you can see where all these waves come from. There's
yeah,
a lot of water and waves in your park,
yes,
isn't there?
Yes. So why I didn't do it before, I don't know. And Mum used to take us down to the beach for breakfast. Yes.
Oh, how lovely. So, yeah. That was in Brighton?
No, it's usually Climping, Angmering, so West Sussex.
Oh, what an idyllic.
Yeah.
I love Climping.
Yes.
I love that beach there. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Well, we've got some questions, Flick. So let's have a look and see what they are. So here we go. Annie says, your seas are magnificent.
Thank you.
Do you use a resist method or masking fluid?
I do, yes, but I have been having problems with it. I think you probably need to use a bottle that you have got recently, because I've had some problems, slight problems with staining, so I've had to paint back over the top of them with white paper. But I find it very difficult to manage without it, and I'm trying to manage without it. But I do a lot of adding white back on top. So I use a toothbrush. Toothbrushes don't go to waste here. They end up here in my studio. So I flick a lot of paint. You have to mask off around it, so you're only getting it where you want. And actually, some of the white paint that I'm putting on top is getting thicker and thicker. So if you look at it, it's really not looking like a watercolor at all anymore.
I know, that's why I said I didn't realise. It was a few years before I realised that they were watercolours, because the intensity of colour and the depth of the paint. Yeah. She also says, do you ever chuck loads of thin watercolour on freely to start with?
Yes, I often put washes on, but I let them dry off. I always have a hair dryer next to me, so I'll put one layer on and then I put another layer on top. And keep going. So I do add to it, or I keep it, sometimes with skies, I keep them very wet for quite a while, and I keep dropping more and more colour into it to build up the colour. You see those two behind me, up that one up there. That's quite a dark sky cloud there, and that took quite a lot of building up the colour on that. Yeah. So often I'll put down something like, if it's a sunset, I'll put the orange down first, and then I'll dry that, and then I'll put blue on, dry that bit more, and so on, and just building it up.
And use the hairdryer to dry it.
I use the hairdryer a lot. Yes.
Hairdryer is very useful. Anyone got any hairdryers?
And then
toothbrushes.
And often I'll use something in natural sponges or whatever on top, and I work on a drawing board, which I took away with me when I left my job in London. So I've had it for a long time.
Oh, yes.
So that's my drawing board there. And I'm actually sitting on my chair, which is quite high. And I can also stand to paint. I quite like standing to paint. And then, I don't know if you can see there's a unit that I designed, Paul helped put together for me, made out of bits of IKEA shelving. And I can move that around. And that has... let's go that way. Drawers that open, and I can put my palettes in it. So, yes.
And the light's quite stark as well. Is that essential that you have a really, really bright light?
Yep, it's all zoned, and there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 6 lights in here, and 7 lights, and the one over my desk is huge, and they're all daylight bulbs. So yes, no, it's absolutely fantastic. It's just been a revelation to me, and I only managed to do it from inheriting a bit of money from my mum. And I have this chair down here, and I can imagine her sitting there chatting to me while I work.
How wonderful!
And I can, which is rather nice.
Yeah. Was that her chair?
No. But she used to come and stay a lot. And she used to sort of sit and read quietly in a corner or something. So she would be sat there with a book, probably with our cat sitting on her lap. So, so this place is in memory of her, really.
Oh, how wonderful.
Which is great, yes.
I'm sure she'd be incredibly proud of what you're doing.
And then it's got French windows on one side, which overlooking the garden.
Yeah. Oh, it's gone dark while we've been talking.
It has indeed. Which is why we've got these rather bright lights on.
Yeah, all my blinds are closed, so I can't see what the weather's doing now. I close them to avoid distractions from outside.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for showing us your studio. It's an amazing space.
And it has just a little sink in the corner. I would like to have had a bigger one, but there wasn't really room.
Yeah, but, someone to make a cup of tea and wash your brushes.
Yeah, it's only cold water.
But,
yeah.
And you can see you've got paraphernalia on the left-hand side behind you as well.
Yes.
On there, so lots of little tricks going on.
Yeah, I have a
blue paper,
smart plans chest, and my IKEA plans chest.
Yeah, I'm trying to move my plans chest, and I don't know what kind of state it's going to be in when I've moved it. They don't move well, do they? They're so huge.
No.
I know. I'm in fear of it ending up as firewood. If I've moved it once upstairs, and now I need to move it back downstairs into here, and I just don't know how it's going to survive the experience. But we'll see. We'll see. Fran asks, where does the liquid graphite come from, and what is the granulation that you add? That's on those new pieces.
I'll go and get the pot.
Yes,
hang on a minute.
Yes, good idea. This is the terrifying moment when people take their headphones off and wander off and they never come back. But she's coming back. Phew.
Okay,
I'm always so glad when people come back and put the headphones back on.
This is the liquid graphite.
Ah, okay.
Is
Where
that
do you
back
buy
and front?
that? No, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, I get lots of stuff from Jackson's, but
right.
You won't be able to see actually, but it looks like a paste.
Yes.
And I've got a blue one, a grey one, and a sepia one.
Ah.
And then I think this is a Winsor & Newton granulation liquid.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you are. Hopefully everyone's seen that. Screenshot it quick, or watch the video back really slowly over that point. Yeah. Over that bit. Nick says, great work, and I like the small paintings and the ruffled edges. Do you use hot or cold press paper?
It's hot pressed. Yes.
Hot press paper.
Yeah.
Is that a decision to use hot press paper?
It's actually that one wasn't. That was a Stillman and Burn paper, which is an American paper. Yes. No, I've used Fabriano Artistico Knot for a long time, and I went away from it for a while, and then I've gone back to it. And painting skies on it, there's nothing quite like it. So.
There you are.
But I use Stillman and Burn sketchbooks, and also I've been using Royal Watercolour Society sketchbooks, which I enjoyed doing. That's a little one.
Oh, lovely. Oh, that looks a little bit like something you'd see up round Buell Water.
Yeah, that was over towards Tunbridge Wells, Crowborough somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah,
that area.
Yeah.
Got lots of those trees fallen into water and such like, haven't you?
And the other thing I do is I rather like drawing sculptures, because I'm very into sculptures.
Oh wow! So have you done? You said you started off doing sculpture. Have you done sculpture later?
No.
Or do you do sculpture now?
No, I don't. No, which is probably why I rather enjoy drawing it.
I say, cheeky. Where was that?
Yes, I mean there is so much reference online.
Yeah.
I mean, if I just use photographs from online, but I mean I'm not selling them. The drawings I'm doing from them, so they're just for me, really.
Yeah, for your own pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you think you would go back to making sculpture?
I don't think I've got time. I've got too many other things I want to do, really.
Yeah. Annie says beautiful drawings in big capitals. Don't think that's a question, just a statement. So Vincent's saying, I reckon you need to rest your eyes from time to time with the incredible detail you put in. Do you find this also useful so that you can react and respond to your artwork, like a conversation with it? To take time out occasionally?
Yes, I do a lot of thinking about it, I think. Yes, but then you can overthink it, can't you? Yes. It's I think I just, yes, I enjoy just sitting doing what I want to do now much more, rather than doing what might sell. Or I think you get to that stage, don't you, where you want to do your own thing more.
Yeah, it's really important to do something that you're passionate about.
Yes. Yeah.
And then if you are passionate about it, wherever its journey is, it'll go, won't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have an aspiration, something that you'd really like to achieve?
Well, I've been trying to become a candidate for the Royal Institute of Painters in Watercolours, but it takes time. I think some people have taken 10 years to achieve it. So I just got to keep trying.
Worth having then, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and because they don't have associate members, they only have full members, so it's kind of more difficult. Yeah.
And how do you do that? Do you just apply and submit work?
I think you've got to have got into the exhibition twice.
Right.
There were an awful lot of applicants last year. I think there were 14 of us.
Who got in?
No, we were applicants, and only 4 were chosen to actually hang as candidates. And only 3 of those got in. I mean, there have been years when they haven't accepted anybody.
Wow.
So, yes. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sure you will get in.
Well,
you just have to keep going, as you say.
Well, the trouble is, it's like all these things, you don't know what they're looking for, who's on the committee at the time, who's voting. I just go there and just try and chat to people, and
I know, that's what I was saying to someone earlier, that they were saying, would we do this again? I said, absolutely. It's been so immensely useful for all the artists and successful. But we'll change the selection committee to make sure that you get a different pick. And there's always some people that get, through each time. But you'll get a different pick every time, because everyone has their own taste. Yes. So it is just down to who was on that selection committee and how they're feeling on the day.
Well,
if they're in a good mood, in a bad mood.
Yes. Well, it's very good that we don't all like the same thing, or where would we be?
Yes, well, absolutely. That's what makes art so amazing, isn't it? That there's something for everyone, and we don't all like the same thing. So, there's an artist out there for absolutely everyone.
And I buy quite a bit of art too, and it's invariably things that I can't do myself. It's got quite a sort of collection of, especially ceramics. I love ceramics. So, yes. Yeah.
I love ceramics too.
Yeah.
I have quite a big collection of artwork.
Yes.
I don't know why. I can't move in my house for artwork.
I'll tell you one story. I've got one painting that is by an artist called Dennis Roxby Bott, and it's one I inherited from my dad. And he bought it when Dennis was at the beginning of his career. And a couple of years ago, I went to an art fair in London, and he had a stand, and I went up and chatted to him. And he remembered my dad buying this painting.
Oh, wow.
And the fact that he wasn't going to tell my mum how much he'd spent on it. And he bought it in the 70s. And this was, a couple of years ago that I met the guy. And it's lovely. It's a beautiful, soft watercolour of a dilapidated old railway station. You know how they used to have those wooden canopies around? Yeah. And I just love it. Yeah. So, yes.
And have you got lots of those in your house now? Lots of the paintings that he bought?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. What a wonderful lot of reference material, as well as beautiful memories.
Yeah.
Well, keep hold of that one.
Yes, there were 4 of us siblings, and the others got some of the ones I would have quite liked.
Oh, no. Always happens.
Yes.
So annoying.
But there we are.
They're terrible. You don't like them. Let's just take them to the charity shop.
Yes.
And quickly pop them in the car. Yes. Oh dear. I know my dad was a great collector, so he collected a lot of ceramics. I think we do get so many inferences and so many such incentives and inspiration from our parents, don't we? There's no denying it. How we spend our childhood and everything is definitely going to come out in some way.
Yes, I've no idea what my poor daughter's going to do with all this art. There we are.
Your daughter loves art, though, doesn't she? And your
she
grandchildren,
does, yes.
and your grandchildren love it as well, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You've shared so much with us, and I understand your process, and hopefully everyone watching now understands what you do so much better. It makes you appreciate the work even more, if that's possible, because it's just so beautiful.
Thank you.
But thank you so much, Flick, and thank you for being so resilient, because obviously after our first adventure into this technological world didn't quite work out.
Yes, well, now we know that,
Louisa.
yes, iPads are not to be recommended for crowdcast.
Are not good for this kind of thing.
No.
They have to be the absolute latest one, apparently, because then it's the iOS and all of that. So if you've got one that's you bought 2 weeks ago, it's fine. But
not a 5-year-old one.
Yeah, anything over a year really is unadvisable. It's going to give me more grey hair. Please don't do it to me. But no, I really do appreciate it, and thank you to Louisa, who should have been sitting in that little blue chair.
She should have been, yes, and I've got her laptop here, which I've got to get back to her. Yes.
Yeah, I will give her our love, and hopefully she's feeling a bit better. Yeah. And thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. And if anyone wants to see your work, they can go to your website, and obviously you're in all these various exhibitions online, etc. And Kent Painters, that'll be up on online shortly, won't it? In
October sometime, yes.
Yeah, so lots of ways to get hold of Flick and see and buy her work. But your website's beautiful. It's a treat to look at in itself.
Yes, so, that's only year before last, I think. Yeah, no, yes, something like that. Yes, not very old. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. So thank you very much. Tomorrow I will be chatting to David Winston. Do you know David?
I certainly do. Yeah. Yes, he's done Cranbrook a few times, and he's great fun. You will love it.
Yeah. I know. He's good. Yeah. I had to try. We had to do a test with him yesterday, just because now we're very cautious of all the tech.
Yeah.
And he always makes me laugh. He's exhibited with me at Wing Art Gallery before now, and he's done a talk there as well. So no, he does amazing photography. He has an amazing darkroom, and he also does quite a lot in Venice. So anyone who's interested in that, do tune in tomorrow at 5:30, and then on Wednesday we have our final day of interviews, which will be Maria Turner and Jeremy Bear. Jeremy's going to actually be here in my office, because his Wi-Fi still is not working, or is not fast enough to hold the signal. So I think that'd be cool.
Excellent.
He'll be over the other side, obviously.
Well, enjoy David tomorrow, because he's absolutely charming. I think you'll have fun.
He is charming, and I think everyone will enjoy looking at his work. And then we have the closing on Thursday, and it's National Poetry Day. So lots of poetry will be read, and by Ed, Boxall and Julia, and some music and some meditation. So I think it's been great.
I'm apologising that I won't be there. I'm on granny duty on Thursday afternoon.
Well, you can watch it on catch up.
I can. Yeah,
because it'll be on here, and everything will be on the website, and it's going to be on the website for quite a while. In fact, years probably. Okay, thank you so much, Flick, and thank you also to Hannah, who I think has now turned off, so she's probably just been watching us, and Molly, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you, Leslie. It's been
you're welcome.
Fun.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed chatting to you. It's really nice when you do an exhibition and you all deliver the work. I don't get the chance to ask the questions. I've always wanted to ask, so it's just such a pleasure for me to be able to ask all those questions now. Yeah, it's very selfish, really.
It's good for all of us.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.